A new Warzone update has just gone live, and they've made a whole raft of changes ranging from gameplay adjustments, bug fixes, and a raft of weapon balances. So first of all, they have nerfed the armoured truck, they've reduced its health and the turret damage to hopefully bring it a lot more in line. And the health is still more than the cargo truck or the bertha truck you may know it as, but ultimately will just be less indestructible like this thing felt sometimes. And then they've also done a raft of bug changes, so hopefully you'll just run into a few less things going forwards. Now moving on to the massive gun balancing update that they've done. Overall, they just look like they're trying to bring the Vanguard weapons in line with the Cold War and Modern Warfare weapons, as to date those two category of weapons have just been stronger than the Vanguard weapons. But starting off with one of the Cold War weapons that they have nerfed the AK-47. They've reduced the min and max damage by 2, which might not seem like a lot, but it will impact the overall time to kill by adding another bullet or so to kill your enemy. And moving on to the AS-44, it's had its initial recoil buffed alongside its min and max damage range buff, which isn't overly impactful as the main reason the gun isn't being used because of its sustained fire recoil control. But maybe they're trying to more pivot towards more of a sniper support or an SMG with this gun, but still don't expect it to be overly used out there. Now moving on to the biggest change that they've made in the patches, the Assault Rifle Alpha, or the STG. Not sure why they've refused to call some weapons by their names and then some by this abbreviation, but they're going to town on buffing the STG. I wonder if that's got anything to do with the Mastercraft bundles or the various skins that are available in the store for it. On top of the previous buffs that they've just done, they're upping the damage on headshots, upping the min and max damage on this gun, but they have nerfed the neck damage multiplier, but the neck is something that you're just only going to occasionally hit anyway, so it's not really much of a change, to be honest. They've also adjusted the Krausnik 220mm rapid barrel, but this isn't an attachment that you're ever going to be taking on the STG anyway, and they have nerfed the fire rate on the recoil booster and the 50 round mags. I expect this is just to stop it being overpowered or ridiculously overpowered when they've just buffed the headshot damage and the min and max damage. But overall, this gun is probably the meta now. Start leveling it up, but I have made an attachment guide for this gun, which you can find in the card section right here. So feel free to check that out, where I've done the beginner, mid-level, and fully leveled attachments for the gun, meaning you can get the most out of it at every single stage of leveling it up. Now, moving on to the Assault Rifle Bravo, or the Itra Burst. They've buffed its min and max damage, but it's still pretty useless outside of 30 meters, especially when the meta build takes 11 or 12 shots to kill, depending on the attachments that you take. That means you need to hit all bar 0 to 1 shots before this gun becomes garbage, which isn't realistic on a consistent basis, so don't expect to see anyone really rocking this. And just know, whilst it might kill you 1 out of 100 times, you're going to beat it the other 99 times. Now let's look at Assault Rifle Charlie, or the bar, as they've buffed the min and max damage, buffed the CGC barrel, and nerfed the rapid barrel. Again, these changes won't make that much of an impact, as the meta build on this gun still only has the max ammo of 30 bullets, which is too low for anything above solos, and even then it's not quite enough for solos, to be honest, either, as this brings it in line to a bit of a usable fire rate. But if you go for the 50 bullet magazine, the fire rate is just ridiculously slow, meaning if you miss 1 bullet, your overall time to kill just sucks. So again, nothing notable for this gun, as it feels very similar to the Scar still, although I'd probably still say that the Scar is better than this gun, so just pick someone else or go try the Scar out. And now moving on to Assault Rifle Hotel, or the Automaton. They've upped the min damage on the gun to make its time to kill more consistent when hitting limbs, etc. And over to the Cooper Carbine, they've increased the maximum damage range on both the base gun and the 22-inch Cooper custom barrel, which should help the gun become more in line with the Automaton at those shorter ranges, but still this gun is going to struggle with its time to kill at those longer ranges. But they've also upped the min damage on the barrel too, again making its time to kill a lot more consistent in gunfights. But ultimately this isn't going to change the pick rate on the gun, it's still going to be pretty much as it was. They've also nerfed the EM2 again, reducing its headshot damage and nerfing its min and max damage on the gun too, making it far less useful for the higher skill players that could actually land their shots on it. And over to the KGM40, this has also received a buff to the base gun and its Krausnik 700mm barrel, almost identical to the Cooper Carbine changes, bringing it more in line with the Automaton by buffing the damage range and the minimum damage. And looking at the Nikita AVT, or the new assault rifle that they've added to the game, they've buffed the overall ammo count on the gun, which should help it a lot, as I don't know about you, but when I was using the gun I just often felt like I was running out of ammo. And they've also buffed the min damage, again making its overall time to kill a lot more consistent. This actually is a great sniper support weapon, so feel free to check it out as well. The NZ41 has also been buffed, increasing its damage range and min damage, alongside a raft of changes to the Sakura 50 round mag. They've also reduced the damage penalty on the with a custom barrel by taking its damage range penalty off and the recoil control reduction being slightly improved as well. Again, a bit of a nothing change here, as the gun still isn't that useful due to its pretty awful recoil control at longer ranges. And over to the Volk, or most people know it as the Volk. It's had its min damage buff, and again, the recoil control is the main issue on the gun, so it's not going to be useful either. And this one has just been coming a very long time. The XM4 has been nerfed by reducing its headshot damage and its max damage. This will see it being less useful going forward, so expect to see a lot less people taking the gun. And now moving over to the SMG changes, the armoured has had its headshot damage, min damage and neck damage buffed, and various barrels buffed. I don't think this gun is going to still be that useful, as the changes just aren't enough to make much of a difference, especially with some of the other changes that they've brought into more meta weapons. The M1912, or the Tommy gun, has had its mid and min damage buffed, alongside bullet velocity on a couple of barrels. Again, nothing major, so don't expect this gun to become meta either. The Owen gun has had its min damage buff. Not sure why they have done this, considering it's still the strongest submachine gun out there. So yeah, its damage profile has just become more consistent than before. So yeah, it's still the best SMG out there. The PPSH Vanguard version has been buffed. I really like this change, specifically for its hipfire build, as its min damage has been buffed, meaning its damage profile will be more consistent. I have made a video on this gun as well, so feel free to check that out in the cards over here. But they've also buffed some barrels, which you won't be using, so it's not worth touching on them. The Sten has been buffed, but it still sucks, so don't bother with it. The Submachine Gun Charlie, or the MP40, has been buffed by increasing its min damage and bullet velocity on the 2 meta barrels, so expect to see this gun out there a bit more. The Type 100 has been buffed by increasing its min damage on the base gun and by buffing the bullet velocity on various barrels. This gun has always been usable and will remain so going forwards, but it's really niche and it will just remain that way as well, so don't expect to see it being picked a lot more. But it's a fun gun to try out, so feel free to go there. The Whirl gun has been buffed as well by increasing its min damage and removing the bullet velocity penalty on the short barrel, and by buffing the bullet velocity on the Hawkinson barrel. Overall, I think this gun will make a bit of a return, as it was always in a good place prior to these buffs, but should be back alongside the MP40 and the Owen gun a little bit more, but still the Owen gun's probably the dominant one out there still. Again, the Whirl gun though has very little recoil, next to none in fact, so if you do struggle with recoil control, then this is one to go for. And lastly, the Vital perk on the Vanguard weapons has been nerfed slightly. I can imagine this being down to the various buffs to min and max damage to multiple guns to ensure the perk doesn't become ridiculously overpowered, so I wouldn't really worry about it too much, as I don't think this is going to be anything game breaking. Overall, there are some great changes on here. Hopefully brings the Vanguard weapons more in line to the Modern Warfare and the Cold War weapons, but the only game breaking thing here is probably the STG. That's going to be the go-to meta weapon going forwards, so start using that, of which you can check out my attachment guide for it here. That will give you the best beginner, mid-level and fully leveled attachments to make sure you can get more kills at every single stage of leveling this gun up. If you did enjoy this video, hit that like and subscribe button. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.